in this super fun express episode of Mind Pump.
Woo!
So first we do our introductory portion of this episode. That's where we talk about our lives and current events and studies. Then we get into the fitness questions. This is where our audience asks us questions about their health and fitness, and we answer them to the best of our ability.
We answer the hell out of it.
Here's what we did in the first part of this episode, the intro portion of this episode. We started by talking about Adam escaping his house and going over to the beach. That's a nice place to escape to. It was really hot at his house. We talked about how PRX is going to be outfitting Adam's wife's work. Her work is building a new gym for the employees, and it looks like they're going to be going to PRX because they make phenomenal
It only makes sense.
equipment. And now PRX you can use in your home. They have squat racks that fold into your wall. They have a low profile. They're also extremely sturdy, and they come with payment plans. So instead of paying your gym every month, why not have your home gym and pay them every month? Then you can work out naked if you want. It's my favorite workout, by the way. Oh, yeah. PRX is one of our sponsors. If you go to prxperformance.com/mindpump and use the promo code mindpump, you'll get 5% off your total purchase and a free MAPS Prime program. Oh, and this is only for purchases over $500. Then I talked about the macros of skinny dipped almonds. Skinny dipped almonds are delicious. Chocolate-coated almonds.
I love them.
That their macros are almost the same as regular almonds. In other words, you could have chocolate almonds if you're willing to eat another 5 grams of carbs. That's it. That's how awesome they are. Now, Skinny Dipped is one of our other sponsors. If you go to skinnydipped.com/mindpump and enter the code mindpump, you'll get a full 20% off. Then I talked about the greatest cinematic movie of all time.
Whoa. Slow your roll.
Rocky. Yeah. What a great love story, right? Yeah, there you go. I talked about the cholesterol meta-analysis. It's not as bad for you as you've been led to believe. We talked about the show on Netflix. It's like a docu-series called The Mind Explained. This thing will blow your mind, literally. Great information. I talked about an article about a surprise baby. A couple did in vitro fertilization, and what came out was not what they expected. Also, I would like to announce that we have a new YouTube video up on our Mind Pump TV channel teaching you how to start bench pressing. So if you want to start bench pressing or you want to maximize your bench press, make sure you go to Mind Pump TV and check out that video. I also have another announcement. We are still selling tickets for our live event in San Jose with Mike Matthews. There's only 15 tickets left.
Oh, sweet sassafras.
So we've expanded it, and now we have 15 left. It's first come, first serve. Here's what you do to get the tickets. Go to mindpumplive.com and get yourself a seat. Then we got to the fitness portion of this episode. The first question, how and when should one use cheat reps? So cheat reps is when your form gets a little sloppy. It's not when you work out with your boyfriend.
Cheating on me, bro?
Yes, it's not when you're working out with your boyfriend or your mistress. Yeah. It's when you're working out on your own and your form goes a little off. Is there any value there? Next question. This person has a labor-intensive job, and they want to know on what kind of exercises and movements they should focus on to help them improve their fitness, but also complement their work. Next question. This person is a college track and field athlete, and their coach told them, hey, you shouldn't have any sex or masturbate for 5 days before a competition because it keeps your testosterone high.
Like, come on, coach.
We've heard athletes say this before. Boxers are known to become abstinent for a little while before a fight. Is there science to support this, or are they just killjoys?
Hang up the lotion.
And the final question, this person wants to know what we think about chiropractors. Are regular adjustments good for you? Do they help with your mobility? You'll love that part of the episode. We get real fired up. Ooh. Also, this month, MAPS Starter is 50% off. Now, MAPS Starter is a great program for those of you who want to get started with resistance training. If you want to get started but you don't know how, but you want to reap all the benefits of lifting weights, like more muscle, more fat loss, faster metabolism, better mobility, get this program. This program was designed for you. Here's the best part. You won't even need to go to the gym. All you need is a physio ball and dumbbells, and you can do the entire workout.
That's why I like it.
Now, if you're advanced and you're like, that's not for me, I'm advanced. You have a family member that needs to lift weights, and you know it. You want to help them out, get this program. This program's a great way for them to get started. It's also, again,
it's great.
50% off. I thought you would catch that.
No.
just go to mapsstarter.com. That's MAPSSTARTER.com and use the code STARTER50.
Pass me the grape juice.
STARTER50, no space, for the discount. You look really nice.
What, me?
Yeah.
You like my jacket?
You kind of have the cholo
Everything
vibe.
looks good. You know what he looks like? He looks like a, you're right, kind of cholo-ish, but very nice cholo-ish.
I like it. No. Because I was going to buy that.
I love this.
Where's that from?
That's the Viore.
Fuck you.
That's the new jacket.
Oh my God.
I've been waiting to wear it.
We're not even supposed to do a commercial right now.
No, I know. It's not a
Shouldn't have
commercial.
wore that today.
Well, that's what happens.
It's
You got good stuff.
It was our first, what a weird it lasts, 3 days or 4 days? So Friday, I don't know if you guys saw, I took off to Sanctuary again. Mm-hmm. But, so Friday we...
Unplanned.
Yeah, totally unplanned. Friday we go to Catrina's mom's house for just a dinner. Like the whole family got there and we were all hanging out because we do that all the time there. So we're there till I want to say 8:30 at night. Now Friday was the day here in San Jose that we hit 100. We haven't hit 100 I think all summer, right? This was our first.
Hot as balls.
Yeah, I think I even hit 102.
It's just
right.
Just balls hot.
Just balls.
Is Santa Cruz now? Santa Cruz
balls.
is always a little bit cooler though, right? So
No.
Oh, really? So when we're at 102, you're hitting 100.
Yeah, it goes back and forth. Like sometimes we're 10 degrees hotter over there than over here.
No way.
I'm serious.
Was it hotter Friday?
Yeah, but so right now it's raining really hard and it's not really raining here. So yeah, it's weird. There's a little bit of a difference.
So on Friday was our 102 day. We're at her mom's house till 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. We come home and my house is still 85 degrees. And I'm like,
and your AC's done. It's still broken.
Yeah, it's still broken. So it's still, we haven't got it fixed. And of course, it's probably going to get fixed this week, which I think we have a cold front coming through right now of
Would you sleep in the garage?
No, what we did is I looked at Catrina because this was our first weekend. We didn't have to be somewhere or we didn't have plans already.
but you have no AC and it's hot as fuck.
Yeah, it's no AC. We're going to be, so it was honestly, my plan was to kind of lounge around all weekend, look forward to watching football Sunday. And I'm 85 in my house. No way, dude, I'll be miserable. So I asked her, I'm like, hey, how fast do you think you can be ready? She's like, why? I'm like, let's go back to Sanctuary. And she's like, are you serious right now? I'm like, yeah. I said, we'll just load the dogs up. We'll load Max up, throw some shit in there, and we'll just go.
Yeah.
And we'll book a room on the way there. And she's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, I'm fucking serious. She's like, I could be ready in 30 minutes. So we put everything in the truck.
That's every woman's dream, by the way. You know what I mean? Husband comes home, 30 minutes, be ready. We're going somewhere nice. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So we hopped in.
She broke the AC.
We just, yeah, right. She's like, I don't mind living in a robe by the beach in a fireplace. Yeah, rough life, right?
I wasn't up there.
That was beautiful. It was perfect. Yeah, 69 degrees. You know what I'm saying? It was nice. The coastal breeze. It was great.
See, I picked this weekend, and I didn't realize the heat. I picked to go hiking this weekend at the Pinnacles. You ever hike at the Pinnacles?
That's your spot.
Long time ago.
Pinnacles is beautiful, great. It's a wonderful park, but it's also 10 degrees hotter on the hikes than it is everywhere else.
Ugh.
Because it looks like Mars. If you go to the Pinnacles, it's like rock and really cool hikes, but also very, very hot. So we're up there and we're hiking, and I'm like, we're going to go fucking, I'm thinking in my head, we're going to hike all day. We're going to do all kinds of exploring. Nah, man, we were there for an hour and a half.
Everybody just melted.
We were hot, dude. My cousin, I look back at my cousin, and she was her face was just red.
Was it you and Jessica, or did the kids go too?
No, me, Jessica, my cousin Daniela, and then her boyfriend Joseph. Which I mean, my cousin Daniela. Growing up, I didn't have a super close relationship with her, but her and Jessica have gotten close, so now I'm getting close to her. And her boyfriend is this really brilliant engineer, super smart dude from Ireland, who for fun. I think I told you guys about him. When he was a kid, for fun, he didn't want to take out the garbage. So he just designed an automated machine that would drive the garbage out to the curb and then come back. Yeah, and then someone stole it. And so then what he did was he said, you know what? I got to figure out a way to get this to do it, but without garnering too much attention. So he designed the machine to move so slowly that it doesn't look like it's moving, but we'll get there in time. That way nobody steals what's underneath the garbage. So it just looks like there's a
solving problems that didn't need to be solved.
Super smart dude. Yeah, super smart.
Are you
dude.
serious?
Yes. That's great. That's like my neighbor down the street. He's a robotics engineer. Same kind of mentality.
Yeah, dude.
He's showing me all these things he just built. And I'm like, why? He's like, what do you mean why? Like, they just want to build things.
They love it.
Yeah.
But anyway, the hike was great, but it was too damn hot, man. I picked the wrong week. And now it's raining. What the fuck's going on
That's
here?
what I'm saying. It was we went from 102 to today. I'm wearing a jacket because it was raining this morning. So it's been crazy. You know what else this weekend that I thought was kind of cool? Katrina's work actually gave her, basically full reign on designing their gym.
Oh, cool.
That's fun.
Yeah. So it looks like it's about 3,000 or 4,000 square feet.
Wow, really?
Yeah,
that's a big
good
company
size.
gym.
Yeah, no, they just, they keep growing. I mean, her company has been exploding for quite some time, and I think they just took over. You know where they're at, right? Over the earthquakes, over there by the San Jose earthquakes.
Yeah, I know that is.
All those major buildings that are
Is
there.
that by Coleman or whatever?
Yeah, back over there. They're taking over a whole another massive building, and everyone's getting.
Dude, is she connecting? Is she going to outfit it with PRX?
Yeah, actually she is. So she had me this weekend. That's what reminded me of this, is that we were on the website because she was talking about like all these different areas, and I'm like, what you should do so you can save space and do more stuff is do the PRX racks.
Yeah.
So you can actually have at least one or two of those racks inside there. It'll fold out of the way, so then you have floor space to do whatever.
You know why that's also smart besides the space is that people who tend to use squat racks are usually the more serious people working out. Mm-hmm. And then there's a lot of people that aren't serious. So it's nice the serious person is going to fold it out when they want to use it, and then they'll fold it back. And then, because you guys know how it is when you go to these gyms, these company gyms, they usually have only machines,
treadmills. And that's about it.
Because that's what people want to use. They're not
stretching mats. Yeah.
But if you're like serious into working out, you want a squat rack.
Well, so I was like working with her on the layout, and I'll show you guys what do you think. But what looks really cool is they had this area that they designated that they thought said they want to do this for a stretching area that's just kind of empty floor space. So that's where I'm actually going to put the squat rack there because, you can push, like you're saying, when it's somebody who wants to do yoga right there or stretch or do ab work on the floor, they can do that.
Now, these are ones with safeties, right? These are the cages with
so
that's what you want.
She's also going to do they're going to do the full-blown, like there's, on PRX, they have all these different packages. Yeah. And it's like the biggest package that includes like all
the weights and everything.
Yeah, all the weights, the dip bar thing,
that's the way to go. Yeah, because you're gonna want all that stuff eventually. So if you do it all at once, you save a lot more.
And
it's
quality. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's all super quality.
I actually was talking to a guy, like one of my good friends too, who was outfitting. Like he just bought this like big. It's like a work shed that you can get like at a Home Depot or at like a Lowe's or whatever. And I forget the dimension, but it's just big enough to where it's basically like a quarter of this room. And I was like, dude, you have to look at PRX. I've seen a couple people do this now where in their backyard, because they don't have a garage, they put up this like work shed, and it's like the perfect size.
Oh my God, that's brilliant.
Yeah, you get the squat rack, you can put a platform in there, and then you got dumbbells over.
Bro, that's a pop-up gym.
It's just like boom, ready to go.
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Now, how does the rack work with that? Because the sheds aren't like you bolt them to the side.
You have to bolt. So there's one that had like steel beams that you can buy. That's
you anchor them in the ground.
You anchor them, yeah. So there's a way to do it. Obviously, that would be the concern, is making sure it's secure. But there's a way to do it.
I've seen them
cool.
I've seen them on people's back of their house.
Yeah.
So if you have like an overhang,
that too, yeah.
Like
that's another cool.
Yeah, and just put it against the back of the house, which I think is super cool.
Do you guys like lifting weights outside?
If I had something like that, 100% I would do that.
That's my favorite.
Especially living here in California where we have great weather.
Yeah, that is my favorite way to work out. It harkens back to when I was a kid working out in my backyard when my dad had his basic weight set, and I would take the weights, and he had a patio cover, but I always would take the weights out to the lawn when I would do curls or tricep extensions or overhead presses because I loved being in the sun. And now we know that the sun has got some anabolic properties. Old school bodybuilders used to always, all the guys at Venice Beach, Arnold and all his buddies or whatever, after they lift, they would go out and lay out in the sun, and they would write about how they would notice improvements in recovery and strength. I did this as a kid, and then I did it again when I had my studio because I had a gap. I would always create a 2 to 3 hour gap in the middle of my day. I would always lift, and then I'd do this 4 mile walk outdoors with my shirt off after I was finishing my workout.
Oh, you've been advocating for that since we started the podcast.
Dude, I love outdoor workouts. It's one of my absolute favorite things. I looked up, I was doing a comparison for a client that I used to work with for snacks. So this person was looking for a small, like something I can eat when I'm driving because I get real hungry between my commute from work till I get to home. And I said, you can wait to get home. And he said, yeah, but I like to eat things while I'm in the car and keeps me awake. Sometimes I'm tired. So we were talking about easy to, eat and consume snacks or whatever. So I told him about skinny dipped almonds. And then I compared the macros of 1 ounce of almonds, regular almonds, to 1 ounce of skinny dipped almonds. Do you know what? Now remember, consider this. So, for the listeners who don't know, plain almonds versus thinly chocolate coated almonds. That's what skinny dipped almonds are. You want to know the differences in macros for an ounce?
How much?
5 grams of carbs.
That's it?
That's it.
Just 5?
5 grams of carbs.
Huh.
That's it for an ounce. So you're basically, what is that? How many more calories is that? 20?
Yeah.
Something like that? It's like nothing.
Crazy.
It's like nothing.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just like barely powdered on there. Like, if you taste it, it's like, but it tastes just like it's fully covered in chocolate.
I prefer it that way. You
Yeah.
ever get chocolate almonds and then the almond is like, the chocolate part is
That's
like
how
most of the damn.
That's how most of them are.
Yeah, it's like chocolate with almond. A little bit almond.
Before being introduced to these, that's the only chocolate almonds I had. And because I'm not just like a big chocolate eater where I want like a big
ton
of chocolate, I've never been into chocolate almonds at all because it's mostly chocolate with a little bit of almond where they've flipped it on its head and it's the opposite where it's mostly almond and you have just a little bit of the chocolate coating on there.
I had to double check because I was like,
but yeah, that's not bad at all. 5 grams.
I knew the macros were good. I mean, that's kind of part of their brand, right? That's why they're called skinny dipped, is because they have, lower in sugar, lower in the calories are not that big of a difference at all from regular almonds.
Right.
So I knew that was their thing, but I didn't realize it was that. 5 grams of carbs. Like,
I was on
nothing.
the peppermint ones this morning. I hadn't had those ones yet. I thought I had all of them, but I guess I hadn't had the
dark
peppermint.
chocolate peppermint.
Yeah.
Is it good?
Oh, it goes great with coffee too.
Oh, yeah.
So the dark. Give me 3 times, I'll get it. Dark chocolate peppermint ones I like as much as the mint. The mint ones and those are my 2 favorite now.
I still like the raspberry.
Yeah.
I'm still
you
done.
can have those too.
I'm glad.
Stay away from my peanut butter.
That's the one. So, by the way, I want to settle an old debate.
Oh, wow. Between who?
Between you and I.
Oh.
Actually.
Did the forum spark this?
I'm glad you asked. No. It wasn't that. So a long time ago, I don't know what episode it was. It was probably around 100, maybe even before that.
Oh, my God.
Ooh, let's see how this goes.
We talked about
We argued a lot.
one of the greatest movies of all time.
Oh, God.
Here we go.
A cinematic
Don't bring up that argument
It's
again.
a love story.
movie ever.
Right? Is that was your argument?
Yes.
I mean, winner of Academy Awards, written by an unknown person who won an award for the acting. The screenplay won awards.
It's a great movie.
We're talking about Rocky. The original. Forget all the sequels. Okay? I'm talking about the first Rocky, the one that just blew everybody's minds at the Academy Awards in 1976, I think it was. And the debate we had when we were talking about it, because I consider myself a Rocky expert. I'm also Italian, so that kind of puts me at a different level.
It's kind of in the genetics.
I remember this argument.
Do you remember this?
Yes.
The debate was, I said Rocky, really, if you really look at it, it's a love story. It really is. It's a love story between Rocky and Adrian. And Adam said, it's a boxing movie. It's all about boxing. So anyway, I watched it with Jessica for the first time. She never watched Rocky.
And did you get some afterwards?
Yeah, huh?
Did you get some afterwards?
It worked.
Come on, dude.
No, we watched the. She'd never seen the movie before, so and I was so excited because she's the one that brought it up. So I was like, "What? Let's do this." So we watched it, and at the end of Rocky, here's what confirms what I say. At the very end of the first Rocky, do you remember what happens?
I don't. Tell me.
Okay, so at the very end, first of all, the whole movie's about this down and out guy or whatever. Yeah,
Something like that.
super down and out guy, whatever, 30 years old, washed up, gets the chance to fight the champion, and then he meets Adrian and all that stuff. At the very end, he goes the distance with the world champion. He's a total unknown. He's like an amateur boxer, kind of a bum or whatever. Goes the distance with Apollo Creed. Right. At the very end, they're calling out the card, split decision. That's in the background. All you hear is him calling for Adrian and for her coming through the crowd to meet with him. and you almost don't even realize what happened. But at the very end, you hear that Apollo Creed won the split decision fight, but that's not the focus. The focus is on Rocky and Adrian in the ring.
Mind blown.
Yeah. So I asked Jessica, I said, she was like, who won? And
She's like, one of the best romance movies I've ever seen in my life. Is that what she said?
She said, it is a love story.
She's like, it was almost as good as Twilight.
It is a love. Fuck off. Watch it again.
I love Rocky. I'm just joking.
I love it too,
Holy
but I
shit.
remember that
Watch
debate.
the first one.
Yeah, but
I
like
remember
I
that
love, I'll have to watch it to confirm that.
I am so excited to watch part 2 with her because I think part 2, in my opinion, is almost, if not better, than part 1. Especially the part where Adrian comes out of the coma. Remember that? Do you guys remember that part?
Powerful, dude.
Remember that? And she tells Rocky to go fucking win, and he just becomes a tornado. Oh my god!
I love the dialogue.
I'm gonna start crying right
between
now.
them. It's
making me. It's making me emotional almost.
very, very
Hey,
articulate.
didn't you have a good study for us this morning?
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yes, I did. That's right. I don't want to tell you guys. I want to wait till the podcast.
Yeah.
Let me pull it up. There was this huge cholesterol paper that was actually printed. It was done back in 2018.
You said it was a meta-analysis, right?
Yeah.
You had to hear Sal like reading this, like, and he's no, yes, no, you can't believe this. Like he's like reading it to himself.
Yeah.
Like,
So
what are you
this
talking
was
about?
this was a comprehensive review of the current literature. So what these scientists did is they went in and reviewed current literature on cholesterol, and here's some of the findings that they found. And what they found was a lot of the studies that showed that cholesterol was bad, having high cholesterol, this, that, and the other, said the studies were done poorly and they were cherry picking. So when we look at all the data, here's some of the stuff that they found. There's no association between total cholesterol and degree of atherosclerosis. So that's the clogging of the arteries. So they found no degree. It's actually what they found. There was a 2% increase in one study, but not a big deal. They also found that the support for high cholesterol being bad for you was supported by fraudulent reviews of the literature. So they were like, yeah, we didn't see like real good evidence at all.
Wow.
The association between total cholesterol and cardiovascular disease is weak, absent, or inverse in many studies. Do you know what that means, inverse?
The opposite.
Yeah.
That means in some studies, they found that people with higher cholesterol had better cardiovascular health than people with lower cholesterol in some studies. So at the very least, what you can take from this is it's not that.
Well, what are they pinning down the cause of the plaque?
Well, cholesterol acts like an antioxidant, and in particular, LDL, the bad cholesterol, it goes up and tries to fight. And it's very important. So when you have low LDL, your rate of infection goes up, and so does your rate of cancer. So it's almost as if that goes up to help meet some kind of an infection or
Like an immune response?
some kind of an insult in the body. Yes. How crazy is that?
I've always wondered that because this has been a tough one for me because my grandpa died of heart attack, and they attributed it to high cholesterol, and so that was always one of those. And I'm trying to like explain cholesterol to my parents, and that I don't know that that's the actual cause. Like I don't know that's the case now.
Well, trip off this, and this I've known this statistic for a long time. I'm going to read right off the study so I don't mess this up. Total mortality among those with LDL levels below 105 milligrams per deciliter. So below 105. This is LDL. I'm not talking about total cholesterol. I'm talking about the bad cholesterol. Total mortality with people whose levels were below 105 was twice as high as when compared to those with a higher LDL, even after they did an adjustment for confounding variables. So having really, really low LDL, total mortality goes up. Wow. Which is the opposite. And they said it's been suggested that the inverse causation explains the inverse association between mortality and LDL. For example, cancer and infections lower LDL. A more likely explanation is that cardiovascular disease may be caused by infections, and that LDL directly inactivates almost all types of microorganisms and their toxic products. So you got to ask yourself why we focus so heavily on cholesterol in modern medicine.
Eat your whole eggs, kids.
And I think it's because we came up with a medicine that effectively lowers cholesterol.
Yeah.
So it became beneficial to make that such a strong focal point because we got a medicine that lowers it. So if we demonize it, now you've got an easy solution.
So,
take this pill.
Yeah, those were metrics that were easy to translate to patients.
Now, when you read that, does that mean that statins are completely obsolete?
So from what I have read, and I am not an expert in this, I'm not a doctor in this, but this is based off of what I've read, that there's a small percentage of people that may benefit from taking statins. And that is, from my understanding, people who have suffered from heart attacks already. Other than that, there seems to be no benefit based off of what I've read. Now, if you're listening and you're a scientist, you're somebody who's an expert in this field, I would love for you to DM me some other information. But no, and statins have their own problems because they stop the production of cholesterol in the liver. They can also cause the depletion of key nutrients like CoQ10 and the weakening of muscles, and maybe even increasing risk for certain degenerative disorders of the brain and nervous system, because cholesterol is such an important. It's so essential for humans that our body makes it. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? You would 100% die without it.
Now, do you guys have anybody close? Like Justin, you mentioned your family, but that seems like it was probably a while ago, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
do you guys have anybody that's recently gone to the doctor that's being prescribed statins? I don't know anybody right now that's...
I don't have anybody in my family.
Not statins, no. I definitely blood pressure medication. Like my dad's on this, and I'm trying really hard to get him more active to where, that can be something that we eliminate, in terms of like medication.
Blood pressure medications got good results, but if you obviously want to lower your blood pressure naturally.
Right.
But you don't want high blood pressure. So those medications actually have a lot of value.
Sure.
But cholesterol is one of those things. It's very controversial. Again, you can find studies that show that low cholesterol, low LDL, bad for total mortality. Yeah. And some of the longest living people on earth, when they test their cholesterol, seem to be much higher. There's one theory that I read that the plaque that they see in the arteries is your body's attempt at repairing inflammation in the artery, almost like it's spackling the walls to try and protect it. And if you don't fix whatever the problem is, of course, that can get out of hand and cause a blockage or cause a rupture of part of the like there's little like inflammatory, I don't know what to call them, what they would be, like a little bubble that happens inside the artery, and then when that ruptures, that can cause problems as well. But it's far more complex than...
A lot more to the story than what we were told, I guess, huh?
Well, if statins were the answer, we would see dramatically lower rates of cardiovascular disease and heart disease, but we're not seeing that. We're not seeing these huge reductions. So, and I used to train a few vascular surgeons, and they even told me that the survival rate and the treatments that we have now when you have heart attacks have completely revolutionized how long people survive. But they'd say a large part of that has to do with the way that they can put stents and the modern operating procedures that they can do with the heart. And they said that's really amazing, medicine. But the statins, it's kind of iffy. Yeah, isn't it kind of interesting?
Have you guys checked out, speaking of interesting things, the Mind Explained? It's like a series on Netflix that does like 20 minutes long.
Oh my God, I love it.
I just watched a couple of those episodes. Yeah. I watched I think the psychedelic one and then the memory one.
I watched the memory one and then one all about anxiety. And it was so enlightening, like especially like the memory one, of course, as far as like the memory being so fallible and like all those studies they found with like eyewitness accounts.
This is a real statistic. Yeah. After 1 year, if something happens and you have a memory based on it, right? After 1 year, about 50% of the details are off or wrong.
Yeah,
50% right away. 1 year.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It starts to degrade. Crazy? There's a chart where everything degrades, and it's you could literally like track it.
But you know what doesn't change? Your confidence in the memory.
Yeah.
How fucked up is that?
It's a lot like Adderall, right?
Yeah. I'm more productive.
I'm so good. Yeah, exactly.
No,
I'm so awesome.
No, you just feel good.
Yeah, you suck.
Isn't that wild?
No, it's super crazy.
Yeah. So you know what influences because I did that episode in particular blew me away, because one thing that I always try to do is examine my own self-confidence with certain things. Because you ever find yourself where, like, you'll say...
Like thinking that Rocky's a love story?
Yeah, no. Well, I watched it last night. I'm the boss, I'm the boss. No. You ever do this where and this happens more often now that we record our podcasts and stuff, where you're so sure that you said something or did something.
Oh, yeah.
You're 100% positive. Oh, yeah. And then everybody else is like, no, you didn't. And then you listen to it and you're like, what? I didn't?
I did say that.
I totally was 100% confident. Mm-hmm. That's a scary place to be. Yeah. Think of all the shit you could fuck up or whatever.
Did you guys see the girl that they highlighted in there, the memory girl? that could do what'd she do?
Insane. It was like 20,000 numbers.
20,000 numbers. She memorized them in 10 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
That is insane.
And I was thinking immediately of Jim Quick, and we had him on the show, and all those tricks.
She would eat Jim
Well,
Quick
she would eat him for lunch. I know.
She's the world champion.
But what I'm saying is like her techniques of like how she, built associations with each one of the numbers. She changed them to like a sound and then also like created a whole story. So she was walking, going through like all these numbers.
Well, they made a very good point in that think about memorizing 50,000 numbers. Could you ever imagine memorizing 50,000 numbers? Well, people memorize, memorize 50,000 words all the time. You see people who know all the words to a play.
Yeah.
Right.
It's very easy. And so they were showing how the memory works and that we remember words and associations. Like if I gave you 15 words to memorize, if you put them all in a sentence, even if it was weird or whatever, you'd remember them versus if they were just random.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
See, I wonder about that too. Like in terms of like if we're in conversation and there's certain facts and things floating around, like how good the memory is. If you're like one of those people that has this whole process of creating all this dialogue and association, like how good your memory is with just like, random things coming at you.
Yeah. The thing that was really cool about or that made me think a lot about the memory one was just that how wrong we often are and how right we think we are all the time.
Well,
That's
it's scary. I mean, especially for people that are wrongfully imprisoned.
Oh,
it's just, it's maddening.
Did you know that a significant percentage, I don't remember what it was something like 40% of people who were on like death row or jail for life were getting exonerated through DNA evidence. And they were all eyewitness. They were all put to jail because people saw them.
That was the standard back then. What else did they have? You know?
This is 100% the reason why I don't support the death penalty, because I know we fuck up.
Yeah.
So if we accidentally kill someone that was innocent, which we have, we totally have. I'm against it.
That's crazy.
There was one common theme among a lot of the episodes, and that was mindfulness.
Oh yeah,
how being mindful dramatically improves your memory, reduces anxiety.
That was the one about anxiety too, and they were bringing up a good point about with anxiety, how it's not like a new thing that all of a sudden. I mean, yes, it's more apparent to us now because we think we're so bombarded with this work schedule. But back in the 20s and 30s, like they were dealing with anxiety. They're taking alcohol with opiates and things to cope with it. They called it Americanitis. I think
there was actually a name for anxiety.
Well, the TED Talk that I had watched, I mentioned recently, he talks about the importance of just exercise and movement to combat anxiety, depression, and all those things like that. And that's something that he attributed part of the rise today in that what we see with ADD medications, anxiety, depression, all those things on the rise is just the lack of movement we are.
Yeah.
I mean, you figure
it's a
just
big factor.
50 years ago, I mean, you just had to be so much more physical, and we don't really talk about going out and having to hunt, kill, and then prepare your dinner, the mental benefits of that. Like, you just don't think of that. You think survival, like, oh, I got to go out, I got to hunt, I got to kill.
Not only are we not active, but we're also distracted all the time.
Right.
And if you look, because again, this
and a lot of the things that you're distracted by are giving like negative feedback too.
Dude, totally.
Yeah.
This documentary series really got me to do more research, and mindfulness is the most effective natural thing you could do for anxiety. Did you know that? Mm-hmm. It's almost as effective as medication. Yeah. It's also the most effective thing you could do to improve your memory. And mindfulness, literally, this is all it is. And I finally understand it. Finally. It's literally being totally present. I know what my body feels like. Yeah. I know what everything's happening right now. I'm not thinking about the past or present. Try being mindful for longer than fucking 10 seconds.
Right.
Hard.
Right.
It's so and then the way that there was a monk on there that was explaining it, and he's like, you just train it.
Yeah.
You're just exercising.
Become friends with it.
Yeah. You just exercise your mind just like your body with being present. So I'm going to really make a focus on doing that.
Yeah,
myself.
It's interesting. They're going back to the roots of it from Buddhism, I guess, which was interesting to me.
Yeah, so check out one of the studies. They had these Buddhist monks who practice mindfulness. Obviously, it's part of their lives or whatever, and they tested their how they felt pain versus other people, and they felt pain just as much as other people. The difference is it caused them way less. It was way less unpleasant. It caused way less stress.
Yeah.
So they still feel it. Not like they're blocking it out. They feel it. They just made friends with it, like Justin said. and it's way less unpleasant. Whereas everybody else is like, it hurts. I need to avoid it. I need to distract myself, and I got to fight it.
They recognize it, and then they can still function in it. You know.
Totally. Isn't that wild?
That's super fascinating.
Yeah, it's a really, really good series. Highly recommended. Speaking of Buddhists, this reminded me of this. That's a funny article that I just read. So there was a couple that white couple, so husband and wife, both white, and they did fertility treatments. So they did, I think, in vitro, where they take his sperm, her egg, and they fertilize it outside of the the mom or whatever. Once it's fertilized, put it back in her, then she has a beautiful baby because they were having trouble conceiving. Yeah. Well, they did that, and the baby came out, and it was Asian.
Like full.
Whoa! Yeah. Somebody mixed the the little swimmers there, huh?
When the baby was 2, the dad was like,
was that like a little joke?
Yeah, I don't know.
Doctor's office. Like,
no,
he didn't notice till she was 2.
When they were 2, he's like, oh man, something's going on. Yeah, like this and that. So they did some DNA tests, and they found that he wasn't the father. So then they went through the whole process or whatever. And
oh my God, what do you do at that point? You've already committed. Like, I mean, you can't go. You can't do nothing about that.
I think that's your kid, right? You don't give a shit at that point. You're like, I love the kid, right? But But they went and found that the fertility clinic or whatever,
I feel like it's
mixed it up.
Major lawsuit coming from that,
dude.
Because that's not cheap. Those things are like $10,000 to do those. So you spend $10,000 to get your offspring, and you get another offspring. Yeah. I'm fucking livid. Sure, wild? I love the kid, and I'm going to raise
Asian milkman somewhere.
I'm going to raise the kid, but at the same time too, I'm fucking pissed.
Well, what do you do? What kind of mindset would that put you in? You'd be mad, but then you'd be like, well.
Obviously,
I love this child, so this is the way it was supposed to be.
I mean, I'm suing, and I want money back, and then I want another kid, but I want it to be my kid this time, right? That's my DNA.
Mine this time.
Yeah. You wouldn't be pissed?
No.
Oh yeah,
of course.
I mean, that's unacceptable.
I mean, especially being the father, and you're wanting to pass on. I mean, for sure. I mean, I would be completely.
I mean,
I would love the child 100%. I agree with that. But man, if I didn't get my kid after that, that was my DNA.
How does that happen?
Down.
Like that needs to be investigated.
It was a mix up in the sperm.
Yeah.
So they had the right egg.
I mean, it all looks the same kind of, right?
But they, I don't know.
It might be throw a label on this one and not.
Someone carrying like a tray. That's what I envision. You know what I'm saying? Whoa! Trips. Whoa, shit! And they get all scrambled up. You're like, oh,
hold on, I gotta scrape this.
This is Smith. This is Nguyen. This was fuck. I don't know.
They got like a tray with like that holds them all. It's like just people. Who knows?
Meeny, miny, mo.
Yeah, that's fucked up. I'm sure he probably was like, "Did you cheat on me?" You know what I mean? I
yeah.
But then again, no, because they knew he knew she got pregnant with the
right
in vitro. So yeah, because I was thinking to myself like, what if she lied to him?
Maybe she tried with another one of her friends.
Like, let's hurry up and get this in vitro going.
Yeah.
Put it in me real fast because I feel like I'm gonna get pregnant this time.
Yeah.
You never know.
All right, first question is from Freeman Axtell. How and when should you use cheat reps?
Ooh.
Oh yeah, good old cheat reps.
When should we cheat?
It's been a while since we've talked about these. Actually,
I told Justin it's when you work out with your mistress.
Yeah.
It's when you.
Do you ever?
Counts.
Do you ever do stuff like this? Do you ever use cheat reps? Are you?
I don't consciously.
Not a lot.
Are you a cheater?
I don't cheat all that often. Yeah, I know that's more probably of a bodybuilder thing to get the pump, and to get that. Like I'd pretty much full range for the most part, but every now and then, dude, if it's coming to like biceps or triceps or something like with my arms, I'll do some cheat reps.
Now Arnold had it in his book, didn't he?
That's where they got popular. They got popular because Arnold and other bodybuilders talked about using cheat reps to do more reps and get the body to force the body to build muscle. This is an interesting one because I never consciously do use cheat reps, but there are times when my form is looser than other times. You know what I'm saying? Where if I'm curling or I'm doing an overhead press, I'm going to use a little bit more body English to get the bar to move. But I never think to myself, hey, today I'm going to do a cheat rep or whatever. It's definitely not a technique that I teach.
I never cheat. You
have to be super good.
Here's the deal. You could go the rest of your life and never use cheat reps and get phenomenal workouts, change your physique looking however you want, and you're not missing out on like this major component. It's a cool thing. I think it's a cool tool that advanced lifters can intermittently use in their training that sure has some value because of the amount of load that you're going to put on there. If you're cheating it up and using momentum, you're going to be able to do heavier weight. And do I see some value in doing that? Absolutely. I think if I had to kind of guesstimate like how often I use cheat reps, I'd say in a year's time, maybe 5 workouts in the year that I
What are your lifts that you guys do cheat reps with?
Would you consider a push press a cheat?
I was just gonna say.
Do you consider that? Yeah.
I was just gonna say.
Well, it's kind
I don't consider them cheat reps. I consider them different exercises.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a different focus. Well, it depends on if that's like, I just want to be able to get up the weight, and that was the entire intent of it, versus like making it a power exercise.
Right.
So the way that they were used back in the day, it was almost entirely applied to curls. This is where cheat reps got popular, and it's when you're doing your strict barbell curls, and then the last few reps get difficult, and so you use your hips a little bit and swing the weight up a little bit to curl the bar up.
That's when I usually do it.
Other people will use it, when doing a lateral exercise, they'll use a little bit of body movement to get the dumbbells up. I don't look at them as cheat reps. I used to when I was younger because that's what I read in the magazines. But as I got older, I just realized they're different exercises. If I want to do a lateral with body movement, it's kind of like a clean. If I want to do a overhead press with some boost, it's a push press, and it has its own value. So that's the way I look at them. I don't like applying cheat reps to other exercises and calling them cheat reps. I think it's just a different movement. If you want to do a tricep press down and you want to use more weight and you angle your body differently and flare your elbows out and you call that a cheat rep, I call that a different exercise. Is there value to it? Sure. There definitely can be a value to it, but I definitely don't think people who don't have a lot of experience and consistency, I don't think they're going to benefit much from cheat reps. They have difficulty maintaining tension to begin with. A cheat rep is just going to get them, it's going to increase the risk of injury, and they don't get any value for that trade.
Yeah, to me, it's way too high of risk for very low reward. You're not the person that's going to benefit the most from this is somebody who is an extremely advanced lifter that has really good mechanics already, really good body control. They train extremely consistent all the time, and this is a nice little curveball that they could throw into a routine occasionally. I see some value there. Anybody else that's throwing it in there, it really doesn't. There's more risk, and there's more to lose, even if it's not risk. Like maybe you're not hurting yourself, but you're trying to do cheat reps for bicep curls, but you're cheating so much that the biceps are getting very little work. Like you need to have really good mind-muscle connection.
You know what used to happen to me as a kid? I would do cheat curls because Arnold did or whatever, and my front delts will get sore.
This is why
all the swinging. Yeah.
This is why one of our most popular videos is the video where I did the bicep curls and I taught the split stance. And it's one of our most popular videos because it's like 50-50. 50, you absolutely love it, see the value in training that way, and then the other 50 are the idiots that are coming in there and they're trying to explain to me the action of the bicep and that there is some sort of shoulder flexion in there, which I understand. The problem is I've trained so many people in my career that I know that most people actually struggle with keeping it out of their shoulders, and the front delt tends to take over in a bicep curl because it's natural for the elbows to kind of roll up as you lift the bar closer to your neck.
And the bicep is involved in that action a little bit. It is shortening the bicep a little bit.
Right.
But I don't see the value in it. I'll tell you what, really, really good form is always the best. It really is always the best. But if you want to use movement and swinging and stuff, then start to practice more explosive exercises where it actually makes sense to do that. Like practice a kettlebell swing or practice a high pull or a clean. Now you're using body movement, but it's a part of the exercise itself. And what are you getting from those exercises? You're building power. And how many people should we apply that to? Very little.
Yeah.
Very little.
Small population.
Very small because it's very complex. And what ends up happening is because here's what happens with exercises. You look at, you could take all exercises and list the risk versus reward. And then you could also make a separate category and say, okay, when form is off, how fast does this exercise become very dangerous?
Right.
So some exercises like curls, form's off a little bit. It's not going to be that dangerous. If you do like a deadlift, form is off a little bit. The danger factor is much higher.
Yeah.
Right. So if you do want to use cheat reps, I would say pick the exercises where if your form goes off, the risk of injury isn't super high. I don't think you should do cheat squats. I don't think you should do cheat, deadlifts or even cheat bench presses or anything like that. I think you probably would save it for a lot of the single joint exercises, which, to be honest with you, cheat reps on single joint exercises, are you going to get any real value out of that?
Not very much.
Aside from your ego?
Right.
Not much.
Next question is from PJ Cliff. I have a fairly labor-intensive job that involves a lot of bending and lifting in front of me. How should I adapt my workout to fit my activity? Should I focus on pressing movements to counter the pulling I do at work, or should I just stick to a balanced routine?
Ooh, MAP Strong would be great for this person.
Yeah.
Good upper back strength in that program, and there's rounded back lifting that's in that program, like that.
But you do have to train.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which would be a good idea for you to train that.
Your best bet with repetitive chronic movements where you're doing the same kind of movement over and over again, you run the risk of having of encountering these overuse injuries.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're doing this kind of a job where you're bending over a lot and lifting in front of you, you run the risk of having probably lower back problems. So I would say work on hip hinging exercises and then work on a lot of mobility.
And core strength.
Yeah, because when you do mobility movements, your imbalances kind of reveal themselves. So you'd be doing core exercises and mobility movements for the spine, mobility movements for the hips and ankles, and then that should help prevent you from, having some of these kind of overuse injuries that can occur from doing something over and over again.
It is a factor too, and it's good. It's a good question because like sometimes people do have really rigorous jobs where they don't realize like all that stress, and then adding in like a really heavy workout on top of that may be overreaching at that point. Versus being like beneficial to you.
Yeah, so. I had a client that did a lot of work like this where he was bent over a lot, and we had to be careful with heavy deadlifts because then he couldn't do his job. Like if we did really, really heavy deadlifts and he got sore in his glutes and his back, especially his low back, if the muscles got sore, he would come back a few days later and be like, man, it was really hard for me to do my job. And it was really sore. And, because the muscle function or your function reduces a little bit because of the soreness, his risk of injury went up. So we were very careful when we did those types of exercises because I think your tendency or what you think may be natural is to work the muscles you're working a lot, right? Like, okay, since I'm swinging a hammer a lot, I need to exercise my forearms a lot. But sometimes that's not a good idea because you're overcoming your body's ability to recover.
Yeah, I like that he also addressed that right away. I mean, like, should I be doing counter movements? Should I be doing things like pressing more when I'm not doing that in my job? And I totally think that's a smart idea. Alongside that, having rotational movements and things that you could strengthen the patterns of your support system. So that way, your body will function overall better, which will then make your job easier and more manageable.
Yeah, I was going to say there's some value too, because if it's that labor intensive that your back is getting sore, I would also be thinking about, okay, how am I moving throughout the day too? Like this is the hard part about answering these questions virtually and like not seeing how somebody moves because. Part of somebody having chronic low back pain or being bothered from their labor intense job could be like a movement thing. And then my routine is really kind of around like a MAPS Prime Pro where I'm looking at, your imbalances or I'm looking at how you hinge and how you do pick things up. And I'm actually just trying to get you to learn how to move better, which then will carry over into your work. Now, if your movement is all great, and I don't need to correct anything, then I would want to strengthen the exercises or the types of movements that you do throughout your day. So I may not stretch you or I may not push you like what Sal is saying on deadlifts. I don't want to get you sore to where but I definitely want to strength train you in like deadlifts and movements like that, because the stronger you get at movements that you're going to have to perform throughout your day, the easier your light day work is going to be.
You know what's funny about this is that, do you guys remember the first time you got a client whose job was very labor physical intensive?
Yeah, I had a FedEx loading guy, the first guy that came to mind when I was listening to this.
Yeah, and the reason why this was weird was because the vast majority of my clients were super inactive, just because that's the average job nowadays, especially in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
So I remember the first time I had someone, I was like, oh, this is going to be very different. Like, For you, I'm going to have you stretch and get massage and relax, and we're going to do recuperative movements. Whereas when I had the other people who were, working on computers all day long, I was like, yeah, we just need to increase your activity constantly. Very, very different approach.
So to me, when I think of like how I would, with what we have, right? Because we're dealing with this all virtually. I don't have this person in front of me. To me, I see a lot of value with this person owning like a Map Strong and owning a Prime Pro.
Yeah.
And I would weave in and out. Map Strong, I think, does a lot of like upper back strength and a lot of hinging, front rounded stuff where you'd be carrying, loading. So that program, as far as the training, great at strengthening and supporting somebody who's doing a job with this. Now, where you have to be able to come in as your own coach and know that if you had a crazy loaded week of work and your low back is killing you and fried, I wouldn't be following what maybe Map Strong says for that day. Maybe that day I'm working out of Maps Prime Pro and I'm addressing my hips and opening up my shoulders and I'm doing things like that to support what I just did. So, that's where even as great as we've done as far as creating all these great programs where you have to learn to customize things for each individual and whatever they're doing. Somebody like this, some days maybe he can get after it in the weight room and really strength train hard. But other days, maybe it was a really labor intense day and he's fried. And that day he might be living more in Prime Pro.
You know what also is good for these people is deep tissue massage. But if that's too expensive or difficult, foam roll. This would be a case where I'd say foam roll at the end of the day, every single day. I did that for my dad. My dad, he worked hard labor and he doesn't do it anymore. But when he did, I got him a foam roller. I taught him how to use the foam roller and it made a huge difference for him. He felt, because, after working all day long like that, things get really, really tight and the foam roller does a good job of kind of loosening things up so you can get good sleep and then go back to work the next day.
Next question is from Captain Jake Sparra. As a collegiate track and field athlete, one of my coaches told us not to have sex or masturbate at least 5 days before a competition because it would keep our testosterone high, which would help us perform better. Is there truth to this?
This is
the old myth.
It is an old wise tale, isn't it?
You know what's funny about this?
I know people that still...
You guys
that was told to me even when I was in football.
You guys want to know what's funny about this? So there are no studies to support that you'll perform better if you don't have sex or don't masturbate. Essentially, don't ejaculate, for a week or whatever. Boxers would
you
do
don't
it
have to make it so dirty.
Yeah,
Sal.
boxers would do it for longer. Boxers would go months without any of that before a fight.
I had a buddy like in football season, like once season started, like he... just
no girlfriend.
Yeah,
wow.
Good looking dude too.
That was me too.
Were you that way too?
Crushing people.
I was not like going out interested in girls, nothing. I was like super focused.
You weren't even handling.
Save it all for the boys.
I'm coming out in the field like angry. Yeah, I don't know. There's something to it though. I mean, it's like it is like a little more aggression that you sort of keep and store. And obviously this is anecdotal, like crazy. There's no science behind it, but the more I would like hold out, the more like aggressive and
that's
crazy
why I find that it's...
Do you have any accidents on the football field?
there's a puddle over there.
Oh, no.
There has to be
like
there has to be some sort of value to that.
There actually is.
Okay.
So I was going to say what's funny about this is studies show that if a man does not ejaculate, his testosterone levels will climb. Here's the caveat. After a certain period of time, I don't remember what the length of period of time is. I want to say 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, the spike of testosterone declines and then they start to go down in testosterone. Testosterone starts to lower. Now this makes perfect sense because if you're not ejaculating, right? If you're not putting out your seed, your body thinks, we need to ramp up the signal to motivate this person to spread their DNA. And so at first your testosterone goes up, but then after a while your body's probably like, well, nothing's happening.
Right.
This person must be a pariah.
Let's down-regulate now.
Let's bring everything down and down. Now, this is the same thing with fasting. You'll notice when you fast, your appetite, at first you're hungry, and then your appetite goes away. But if you fast long enough, appetite comes back really, really strong. It's an adaptive process. So it drops.
Intermittent masturbating.
Yeah,
that'll be a thing.
Your appetite will drop to keep you focused.
New guide for Sal, right?
It's what about how to raise your testosterone without pictures of Justin's feet. Just look at these.
The ultimate deterrent.
It'll prevent. Yeah.
So there is some value in it.
With the testosterone. Now, as far as improving performance, there's no studies to support performance increase. But there are studies that show a testosterone increase.
Well, if the testosterone's increase, and which could correlate to somewhat of aggression and energy, possibly. I mean, come on. I mean, I feel like you're more motivated to get out there and.
I mean, there's some angst. You know what I mean?
I think
it's real.
I think part of it too is just the distraction, right? Like the coaches are like, you're not gonna, if you're not thinking about sex or you're not having sex, you're probably not going out much. You're probably not partying. You know, you're going to bed early.
You're very focused.
Yeah, so you're probably more focused. I know that's why boxers. They used to say that sex weakens the knees in boxing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, weakens the knees. So I don't know.
I'm with Coach then, man.
Yeah,
don't masturbate for 5 days.
I don't know, man. How do you guys feel when you haven't done anything for like a week?
Energized.
I get angry.
Like very motivated. I'm like motivated.
Which is probably good for the sports. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Take it out on the field or the track.
We should try it before podcast. See if we do better podcasts.
Yeah, you can do that.
Next question is from Kyle Grego. What are your thoughts on chiropractors? Do regular adjustments help with improving mobility?
Depends how they're used.
You know what? Mm-hmm. I used to hate chiropractors for a long time. And that was a total overgeneralization because in my experience, all the ones that I had spent time with, I just wasn't impressed. I wasn't impressed with...
They were all the whack-em, crack-em ones.
Yeah, especially... Now, remember, I've been doing this now for almost 2 decades. So 10, 15 years ago, the type of chiropractors that I was meeting compared to what I've met now is like night and day difference. I mean, when you look at the Dr. Brink, Dr. Shallows... I mean, these guys, the information that they're putting out, I know the Move You guys, I believe, are also chiropractic doctors too. And I don't know when this transition happened for them. This would be great to actually ask Dr. Brink when this started to happen. But at one point, they started to kind of move away from only those types of doctors. And a lot of this newer breed that's coming through. In fact, I was at my high school reunion. One of the girls that I went to high school with became a chiropractor, and the very first thing I asked her is like, "Oh, are you big on adjustments?" And she's like, "No, she does all
more movement focused,
movement and self-myofascial release." Like
that's great.
And you used to not hear that before. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, chiropractors were what the old school way, and the ones used to come through my gym. It was they used to do an assessment back then. They had either the poles with the strings that were across, and they would assess you by moving them around and showing you your shoulders elevated by 1 inch here, your hips, elevated or depressed over here, like, and then they would basically adjust and crack you and say, "Oh, look, we fixed you there." And then you would see, or you'd see like the ones that are digital later on. Well, that I am not a fan of, especially when you do an adjustment and there's no prescription of what to do afterward. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm like,
there's no fixing the root.
Yeah, they want you to come back so they can give you temporary relief again. I mean, this was my experience, even like because I took a lot of damage from football where like I had ribs out and things, and they would actually help a lot because it was like restricting my breathing on some level, and I had pain, and so it's like they could adjust my rib to be set back, but then the pain would be worse a lot of times, and like I didn't really have like any kind of like strengthening protocol or anything I could do, which was frustrating.
Well, the science supports chiropractic adjustments for certain kinds of pain relief. That's why it's covered by insurance. Studies do support that it does provide pain relief. I believe it does. I've experienced it myself. I've had situations where I've hurt myself, got an adjustment, and had a 70% reduction in pain immediately after the adjustment. So that, and as far as that's concerned, it definitely works. The problem is if you just do adjustments, then you're not really solving the root cause. It's just like foam rolling or other type of tools where you get things out of the way, things feel better for a second, but you don't fix why that was happening in the first place. And so you have to continue to get adjusted, week in and week out. Dr. Shallow actually explained this quite well. So there are lots of small joints in areas of the body that are very difficult to articulate. And so what ends up happening is, for whatever reason, let's say you have poor mobility, overuse, or maybe you have an injury, some of those small joints and what areas freeze up because the muscles in between them tighten and tense up. This is the body's way of protecting itself. So if you hurt a joint, even especially if it's a small joint, the surrounding muscles seize up and tighten to prevent it from moving. This is, again, your body's attempt at making it, keeping it from getting any more hurt. The problem is that itself then causes pain. So now you've got these joints that don't want to articulate, muscles around them that are really, really tight, and it just hurts. And so what an adjustment will do is quickly articulate, move those joints, get those muscles to stretch a little bit, and then you feel that immediate relief. It's just like when you have a client with a tight piriformis muscle in their hip. Like, oh, my hip bothers me. And then you have them do a hip stretch, and they stand up, and they're like, oh my God, it feels so much better. All we did is send a signal to the central nervous system that told the CNS, hey, this muscle doesn't need to be tense.
Right.
It can relax a little bit. That takes away the pain. But if we don't fix why the person's hip got to that point in the first place, the odds that it'll get back there are quite high.
Oh yeah, to unlock the joint's potential and to show that you could still do the movement, relatively safely, and like train, immediately after that, and like try and repattern those movements, then it's beneficial. It's like I just helped to guide you back into
right.
therapy.
And so what makes things go back in alignment is that they articulate these joints. CNS gets the signal, cool, we could back off a little bit. Now the tight muscles loosen up and things kind of balance out again. But again, if your daily movement caused that to happen in the first place, or whatever you're doing caused that to happen in the first place, and you keep doing it, what do you think is going to happen?
Yep, it's going to go right back.
You're going right back to square one. So
a real easy way to tell if you have a good chiropractor or not is if they do or do not prescribe work for you to do outside of the adjustment,
or do exercises with you.
That's that. I mean, same difference.
I mean, Dr. Brink's office is mostly an exercise room.
Yeah, I mean, that's how he won me over in the first place. Is when I came in to see him, we never once even I didn't lay on Dr. Brink's adjustment table for like a year and a half of knowing him.
Well, and a lot of it's the patient's fault, right? Like I want that. Like even me going in, I had hip problems. I kind of wanted him to just crack and give me that relief. And he's like, do these, really uncomfortable movement drills. And I'm like, like flipping them off, as I'm doing it. But It was way better that he had that approach.
Yeah, and I'm glad that it's changing. There was a period there where, and I'm sure there's a lot of chiropractors that still do this. I don't remember what method it was, but there was this. It was popular where chiropractors were learning how to maximize their revenue. And one of the ways that they were maximizing their revenue, and it became this like, they actually gave it a name. It was like a way of doing this of adjusting people.
Yeah, it was like a 15-minute protocol of cracking. The neck, the shoulder, the spine. They would do this like
it's like a conveyor belt. They're just getting everybody through.
They would actually have multiple beds lined up, or have clients and patients in 4 different rooms.
Yeah.
Crack this one, crack that one, go boop, 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 boop. And now you're seeing 5 or 6 patients in an hour versus 1 per hour. Yeah. That's when I think shit started to go a little south for me.
Oh yeah. All you have to do is, we know what 80% of the population suffer from upper cross syndrome and lower cross syndrome. So if you understand what that is, and what areas like a chiropractic adjustment would relieve those things, it's like you're almost guaranteed to help everybody real quick just by popping all of them in place, and they come out, they're like, oh wow, they can open their chest
just
up, all
restacking everything so it's nice and aligned.
Right. It's like, if you just hit everybody with those 4 or 5 adjustments, everybody will walk out feeling better than what they did when they walked in, and then that sells everybody on this belief that they need to have this chiropractor every single week. But in reality, the reason why they have upper cross syndrome, lower cross syndrome, is they have these tight muscles that are pulling and rounding the body into that position, and they're not addressing the imbalances through corrective exercises. And that was what I always tell clients that were in love with their chiropractors is, hey, I'm okay with the chiropractor working alongside with us, but we should be communicating like what he's adjusting and what he's trying to work on with you, and then I should be getting things from him that are telling me we should be doing these exercises, these stretches when you're coming in to see me. If he's not giving you that, he's fucking worthless.
Yes,
that's how
and you also cannot write off the powerful placebo effect. Okay, so let me explain for a second. When they do studies on the placebo, first of all, we know the placebo effect is real, but the most powerful placebo effects have the addition of something, of some kind of a signal or something actually happen. For example, if you do a fake surgery, but you actually cut the body part open, then sew it back up, but don't actually do anything inside the joint, the placebo effect is way more powerful because the person who's getting the placebo effect has a stronger belief because, I do have stitches.
Right.
So now you go to a chiropractor. Yeah, you go to a chiropractor and he moves you or she moves you and you hear pop, 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 pop.
Yeah.
So the odds of a placebo
visceral,
effect,
yeah.
yes, the odds of a placebo effect being more powerful in that situation are far, far, far higher. The other thing that really annoys me about some chiropractors, and luckily they're few and far between, are the ones that say they can cure everything.
Oh, yeah.
Like, adjustments.
The common colds and everything else, huh?
Yeah, and what they say is that, if the central nervous system is operating optimally, then your body cures itself. And so if you have a cold, come get an adjustment. If you have a flu, come get an adjustment. If you're depressed, come get an adjustment. I've had people say,
take these supplements, like out the door.
Yeah, no.
There's a lot of that.
No, the good ones do some adjustments, but mostly movement. And that's what we've seen so far with the two that we respect the most, Dr. Brink and Dr. Shallow. And with that, go to mindpumpfree.com and download our guides. They're all absolutely free. You can also find us on Instagram. You can find me at Mind Pump Sal, Adam at Mind Pump Adam, and Justin at Mind Pump Justin.